Chosen one, stop for a second, because the story of who you became was never supposed to look like this, and yet here you are, standing in a version of yourself that even the people who watched your life unfold could not have predicted. There were moments when the road behind you looked too broken to lead anywhere meaningful. Times when you wondered if all the effort, all the quiet endurance, all the nights of questioning yourself were leading nowhere. And yet somehow, you kept moving. You didn't always move quickly. Sometimes you crawled through those seasons, sometimes you walked slowly, and sometimes you simply stood still, trying to understand what was happening. But you never truly gave up. Before we go deeper into this message, stay here with me until the very end. Sometimes a message reaches the heart in the exact moment it was meant to be heard. And if something in these words touches that quiet place inside you, write your warmest wishes in the comments and say, Amen. When people speak hope together, even through small words on a screen, it's like sending a signal into the unseen parts of life, a reminder that faith, expectation, and gratitude still live inside us. Now, let's breathe for a moment, because the idea that you became something unexpected doesn't mean you became perfect. That's not the point. The real story is that you became stronger in places where you once felt fragile. You became patient where you once rushed. You became thoughtful where you once reacted. And those changes didn't happen overnight. They happened in pieces. Little moments that nobody else noticed. A decision you made when you were hurt. A choice to stay calm when anger would have been easier. A moment where you refused to quit, even though quitting felt justified. Those moments build a person. They shape the kind of strength that can't be faked. And often, the people around you don't notice those changes right away, because growth rarely announces itself loudly. It happens quietly, behind the scenes of everyday life. There's a verse that captures this quiet transformation in a simple way. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. Transformation doesn't always look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it's simply the way your thinking evolves, the way your perspective widens, the way you start responding to life with a deeper sense of calm. Chosen one. If someone had met you years ago, they might have seen someone still searching for direction. Someone still figuring things out, still learning from mistakes, still trying to understand what their life was meant to become. But time changes people. Experience changes people. And the person who stands here today carries lessons that the earlier version of you didn't yet understand. That's not arrogance, it's growth. You learned that not every voice deserves your attention. You learned that not every opportunity deserves your energy. You learned that sometimes the most powerful response is silence rather than reaction. Those realizations don't arrive easily. They arrive through experience, through mistakes, through seasons where you had to step back and rethink everything. There's another verse that speaks about how those seasons refine a person. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds. James 1:2. At first, that line sounds strange. Joy in trials? But when you live long enough, you begin to understand what it means. Trials reveal things. They reveal your patience. They reveal your courage. They reveal the strength you didn't know you had. And after you walk through enough of those moments, you begin to see life differently. You stop measuring your progress by the opinions of others. You start measuring it by the peace inside your own spirit. Chosen one. Peace is one of the clearest signs of transformation. Not the absence of challenges, but the ability to stand steady while challenges pass through your life. And that steadiness becomes visible to others. Even if they don't say it out loud, people notice. They notice the calm way you handle situations that once would have overwhelmed you. They notice the patience you show in moments where others react quickly. They notice the quiet confidence in the way you carry yourself. Those things tell a story of someone who has changed in ways that can't easily be undone. There is another verse that quietly reminds us where that inner strength often comes from. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. Strength doesn't mean never feeling doubt. Strength means continuing forward even when doubt appears. It means trusting that the lessons you've learned are guiding you somewhere meaningful. Chosen one. The reason this message matters is because sometimes we forget how far we've come. We focus so much on what still needs to be done that we overlook the transformation already happening inside us. But if you pause and look back for a moment, you may see something remarkable. You survived things that once felt impossible. You learned lessons that once seemed too painful to understand. You became someone who thinks deeper, feels deeper, and moves through life with a different kind of awareness. That kind of change doesn't happen by accident. It happens because something inside you refused to remain the same. And the person you've become, the one who grew quietly through every challenge, may be stronger than even you realize. Sometimes the most surprising transformation is not the way the world changes around us. It's the way we change within ourselves, until one day we look back and realize we're no longer the person we used to be. There's another layer to this story that people don't talk about much. The part that happens after the storms, after the mistakes, after the long nights when you questioned yourself more than you'd ever admit out loud. It's the quiet rebuilding, the slow forming of a new version of you that doesn't rush as much, that listens more, that sees things others miss. Chosen one. Something inside you learned how to pause. Not because life suddenly became easy. No, it was the opposite. You learned how to pause because you had to. Because reacting too quickly once led to regret. Because trusting the wrong voices once cost you something real. Because chasing every opportunity once left you tired and empty. And so you started doing something different. You started watching, observing. You began letting things reveal themselves before you jumped in. That kind of patience, it doesn't come from books. It comes from experience, sometimes painful experience. But once it settles into your spirit, it becomes a kind of quiet wisdom. The Bible hints at that kind of wisdom in a simple, steady line. The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out. Proverbs 18:15. That verse isn't about intelligence, it's about awareness, the ability to listen deeply, to notice patterns, to feel when something is right and when something isn't. Chosen one, if someone looked at your life from the outside, they might still think they understand your story. They might still think they know who you are. But they don't see the inner shifts. They don't see how much your perspective has changed. Once, you may have believed that every door that opened needed to be walked through. Now you know better. Now you understand that some doors are distractions dressed up as opportunities. That realization alone can save years of confusion. There's a strange strength that comes when a person stops trying to prove themselves to everyone around them. When you stop explaining every choice, Stop defending every direction and simply start trusting the quiet guidance forming inside you. At first, it feels lonely. Let's be honest about that. When you begin changing, some people don't recognize you anymore. Not because you became cold or distant, but because you stopped participating in patterns that once felt normal. You stopped arguing about things that don't matter. You stopped chasing approval that never felt satisfying anyway. You started valuing peace more than being right. And that kind of shift changes relationships. Some people drift away. Others suddenly respect you in a way they didn't before. But the most important thing that changes is the way you see yourself. You begin trusting your own judgment more. You begin understanding your own patterns. And slowly, almost without realizing it, you step into a steadier version of who you are. There's a verse that speaks softly about this kind of inner direction. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5. At first, that line sounds like surrender, but it's actually something deeper than that. It's about recognizing that life has layers we can't always see right away. That sometimes the confusion of the present moment is part of a larger picture we're still growing into. Chosen one. Think about the things you once worried about constantly. The situations that used to keep you awake at night. The people whose opinions once held power over your decisions. Some of those things don't have the same hold on you anymore, do they? Not because you became careless, but because you learned something important. You learned that not everything deserves your energy. Energy is precious. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. When you invest it in fear, fear expands. When you invest it in resentment, resentment deepens. But when you invest it in patience, growth begins to take shape. The Bible speaks about this kind of steady inner work in another quiet passage. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. James 1:4. Perseverance is not glamorous. It's not loud. Most of the time, it looks like ordinary days where you simply keep moving forward even when you don't feel dramatic progress. But those ordinary days accumulate. They build something real. Chosen one, the person you're becoming, is not the result of one big moment. It's the result of many small decisions repeated over time. Choosing patience, choosing honesty, choosing to keep learning, even when pride might say you already know enough. That's how character forms, and character changes the way life unfolds. Because when someone carries that kind of grounded presence, opportunities begin approaching them differently. People begin trusting them differently. Even challenges start looking different, less like threats and more like puzzles waiting to be solved. The world may not recognize the transformation immediately, but you feel it in the way you think, in the way you respond, in the way you move through moments that once felt overwhelming. Chosen one, sometimes the most remarkable change isn't something others see right away. It's the quiet realization inside your own heart that you are no longer reacting to life the way you once did. You are responding. And that shift, that calm awareness growing inside you, is often the beginning of an entirely new chapter. And then there's this moment, a very quiet one. It doesn't look dramatic from the outside, no thunder, no spotlight, just a realization that arrives slowly, almost like the first light of morning coming through a window. You notice that you're not the same person who walked into the storms that shaped you. Chosen one, that realization can feel strange at first. Because growth rarely announces itself while it's happening. When you're in the middle of it, all you feel is pressure, confusion, sometimes exhaustion. You're just trying to make it through the day, trying to understand what life is doing to you. But time has a way of revealing the meaning behind those seasons. One day, you pause, maybe without even intending to, and you look back at the road behind you, and suddenly it becomes clear. Those experiences were not random. They were forming something. They were teaching you how to stand. There's a verse that captures this quiet strengthening in a very simple way. "The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him, and he helps me." Psalm 28:7. Strength doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it looks like silence when anger would have been easier. Sometimes it looks like patience when rushing would have felt more satisfying. Sometimes it looks like continuing to believe in your purpose even when nobody else seems to understand it. Chosen one, that kind of strength grows slowly. And the strange thing about it is that the world rarely sees it while it's developing. People often only notice the final result. They see the calmness in your voice, the steadiness in your decisions, the quiet confidence that you carry without trying to prove anything. But they didn't see the long process that built those qualities. They didn't see the doubts you wrestled with. They didn't see the moments when you almost gave up. And maybe that's why the transformation feels so personal. Because it happened in places no one else could reach. Inside your thoughts, inside your faith, inside the conversations you had with yourself when the world around you felt uncertain. There's another verse that speaks to the way those private battles shape a person. "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Joshua 1:9. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's movement despite fear. It's the willingness to keep walking even when you don't fully understand where the path is leading. And that kind of courage changes a person. It changes the way you see problems. It changes the way you see yourself. At some point along the journey, you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you begin asking something different. "What is this moment preparing me for?" That shift in perspective opens new possibilities, because once you see life as preparation instead of punishment, even difficult experiences start carrying meaning. Chosen one. If you listen closely to your own story, you may notice something remarkable. The very challenges that once felt like obstacles may have been the exact thing that built the strength you carry today. The disappointments taught you discernment. The delays taught you patience. The uncertainty taught you faith. Without those lessons, the person you are now could not exist. There is one more verse that captures this unfolding journey beautifully. "And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him." Romans 8:28. Not some things, all things, even the chapters that felt confusing while you were living them, even the moments when you questioned your direction, even the seasons when progress felt invisible. Chosen one. The story of your life is still unfolding. And sometimes the most surprising part of that story isn't what happens around you, it's what happens inside you. You become calmer, more thoughtful, more aware of the quiet guidance that has been present all along. You begin trusting that the road ahead does not need to be perfectly visible for you to continue walking. Step by step becomes enough. Faith becomes enough. And eventually, you realize something that once seemed impossible. You didn't just survive the challenges you faced. You grew through them. You became someone who carries wisdom where confusion once lived. Someone who carries patience where frustration once ruled. Someone who understands that real transformation doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens through 1,000 small decisions to keep moving forward. Chosen one, the world may never fully understand the journey that brought you here, but you understand it. And sometimes that quiet understanding is the greatest sign of all that you have become exactly the person you needed to become for the chapters that are still ahead.